Clarissa is a way different fighter from when she was back in the
Thanks to those joining me live and to those that will be joining me on our
defenses that she's had to have recently. You know, she's pulled people.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Roundtable about tribalism. I don't think tribalism is necessarily bad. I just don't think it has to be.
I don't know what he think he sees or what he think he know. But he going to the hospital, bro. Like, bro, you not winning that fight.
You guys mentioned, I think, D-Style, you mentioned him versus Regis Program. I'd love, that sounds like a...
Old, I don't need you, you know, and PBC and others, in my opinion, it's like, oh, this is my guy. Like, there's a relationship.
Flat out, it's tough, and we call box, and we go to the end of the round, and then...
That would say, what do you mean by acting black? That's a fair question, but a participant of trash talk knows...
And they're announcing a fight 3-4 months from now. And he ain't going to fight. I bet you anything. He's not going to fight somebody as good as John Wayne.
Good. All right. Welcome back to another edition of the Roundtable. And we are here with another all-star panel as usual. We got the best, one of the best, I'll say the best matchmaker in the game. Roberto Diaz is back with us. We got Chauncey Pearls. We got Crystal. We got D-Style Boxing. And we got Mario Munguia, who's on the phone right now. What's going on, everybody? Let's jump right in. Big fight this past weekend, Canelo Alvarez. And still questions people have. Was it the opponent? Was it just Canelo being that good? Canelo said, no one beats this version of me. No one beats me right now. Roberto, we'll start with you. You're very familiar with Canelo. You've followed him over the years. You've worked with him over the years. Is he right? Does anyone beat this Canelo at 168?
First of all, thanks for having me, guys. I'm really excited, really honored, and appreciate the invite. Yes, I agree. You know, for a long time, we would see Canelo in every fight improve. In every fight, improving. And he's doing things that are really outside of the limits that he should be doing. And what I mean by that is he's really a natural welterweight. If you get his measurements of height, reach, and everything, he should be a welterweight. Normally, years back, Mexicans didn't get bigger than welterweights. Now, evolution, I guess, and nutrition and everything's getting much better. So he's competing in a division where he is. I mean, look at Charlo, who was 2 divisions smaller. By the time they stepped in the ring, he looked like the bigger man, whether he was physically or not. And what I did say prior to the fight, and I'll stick with, is it wasn't going to be a size thing that won the fight. At the end of the day, it was going to be experience and talent. Canelo's been there, done that, blindfolded, he can go through it again. Charlo was, as much criticism as he's getting, he was in the biggest stage of his life for the first time. And maybe he walked into that ring with the mentality, not maybe, I'm sure, because I know him very well. He walked in with that mentality, like many do, I'm going to win this fight. They got to believe in themselves, right? But somewhere in between, like Mike Tyson says, the plan goes out the window once you get hit. And that's when he goes into survival. He said after the fight, I wish I would have got a little bit more aggressive. Well, it's too late by now. You should have done that before. But you can't knock him, because until you're in that ring and feel that power, and many people, and you guys know what I mean, say that he's quicksand, he's very slow, flat-footed. But once the opponent's in front of him, they change their mind and say, wow, I didn't know he was that quick in cutting off the ring or getting in there. So I do believe, I've been saying it for a while, that Canelo, nobody beats him at 168. If he keeps stepping up and taking these challenges at 75, that's way too much advantage. And of course, he could be defeated maybe there. But at 68, including Benavidez, that everybody wants him. Now, I agree that could be the best fight out there, but I don't see him being beat in this moment right now.
Got you. Mario, Canelo said right after the fight, nobody beats me now. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think it's true. Honestly, I think at this point, what Canelo has done is something much more important than just beat Jermell Charlo, and much more important than, although what Roberto said is spot on, and he's absolutely correct. But the thing that we all have to remind ourselves is that Canelo has been fighting the best competition since basically he, started, or after Mosley, it's just been mostly elite guys. And even when we criticized him for the John Ryders of the world, the most boxing fans weren't aware how good John Ryder was, and by the way, John Ryder beats Jermell Charlo at 160 and 168. And so you look at these things at what Canelo's done. Yes, he beats everybody. Why? That's the question. Why does he beat everybody? Because unlike a lot of the guys, I don't want to just blame PBC, but a lot of that falls on PBC. Canelo was active. Canelo wasn't just fighting once a year or once every, 18 months like Mayweather, like Pacquiao ended up. He was actually challenging himself. When everybody complained about Yildirim, nobody was talking about the fact that Yildirim was one of 4 fights that happened in a time span that was thought to be outrageous for pay-per-view fighters just a decade ago. Why would he beat everybody? Because he's put himself in a position to beat everybody, because his words were, I don't have to get ready, I stay ready, motherfuckers. And he meant that. That was true. That was something that no other boxer really understood. And I don't think Mel understood it either until he got in the ring. Because if he did understand that, if he really did understand that, then he would have known that his best chance was to take a fight in between, get acclimated, do it the right way. You're already climbing a hill, beating a champion, division 2 weights above you, but now you're going to put yourself 10 yards back, with 30 yards to go against the best in the world. You were always uphill.
Got you. Chauncey, can David Benavidez be that guy? Can he be that guy that could challenge him?
I think that he could challenge him, but as Mario mentioned, man, I think that right now Canelo, I really thought that coming into the Mel fight, we were going to see a little bit of slippage. It didn't look like it, man, and I think that like Mario said, just Canelo's discipline, his work ethic, he's done everything right, including tapping into the mainstream, so we can put that whole who's the face of boxing, who's the real pay-per-view star, those arguments away. We know that Canelo Alvarez is the face of boxing. He is the number one right now, the number one guy. I have to see how Benavidez looks against Andrade. I think that Andrade's gonna kind of muck up that fight a little bit, which he has a tendency to do with his fights. I want to see how Benavidez looks in that fight. I think that he's already been a year away from fighting since the Plant fight. But man, Canelo is just right now. He's still on top of his game. The discipline, his punching power, his ability, his defense. Man, he's still able to. He's getting hit a little bit more than he used to, but he's still able to make you miss, make you pay. And yeah, man, I still think that Canelo should take the Benavidez fight next. And for Benavidez, it's an uphill climb, because as Mr. Diaz mentioned, not only do you have to go up against Canelo's skills, you have to go up against the moment, the big stage. You have to go up against the punching power, and those are all factors that will have a negative effect affecting you in a fight if you're not prepared for. And who is really prepared for that stage until you actually get there and you're face to face with Canelo? And but yeah, man, I think that Benavidez and Canelo should happen next if Benavidez gets the win with Andrade. I think he will. But yeah, man, I think for Benavidez it's an uphill climb, and I think that Canelo, I actually think that he probably stops him late in the fight.
Were you impressed with Canelo, Crystal?
Impressed or disappointed? Yeah. I would have to say I was rather disappointed in the performance of Charlo, if I'm honest. I thought he would bring more to the table, more competitiveness, rather than a survival mode. I thought he would take a risk, knowing that he on that high level of a platform. I thought he would take a risk and say, I'm giving it my all. And what I get from him was the Caleb Plant vibe. You think I do well because I don't get knocked out? I don't like it so much, So Canelo do exactly what I expect him to do. He go in there, he feet movement is much higher level than nearly everyone in the sport right now, right? He have the power and he hands, and we can't deny that. he truly is one of the top faces of boxing, and he been there for a while. He continued to prove he power, he existence, even he ring walk. I know it's very controversial, but he ring walk was a spectacular show. This lad is very well known in Mexico right now, and he do what he always do. He bring out the best of them, right? So I hope we see Benavidez with him next. And after that, there's one other lad that I feel like is one as disciplined as him. We shall see.
Gotcha. D-Style, is Charlo's performance kind of putting a damper on this whole fight, and is it taken away from what the good things that Canelo actually did? Do you think that's the case here?
To the uneducated eye, people probably just focus on the fact that it was a boring fight, right? Where I watched the fight, people weren't quite impressed with the fight and with the co-main either, quite frankly. The shout out to Elijah Garcia. I thought he had a great performance and kind of stole the show, to be quite frank. And I think the Barrios Ugas fight, until it got uncomfortable to watch, it was pretty good till then. But as far as Canelo goes, I'm not getting divided that people are blaming Canelo or anything like that, because Canelo has enough equity, and it's like people know how Canelo brings it. Like people understand it wasn't him, right? So for a lot of people, this is the first time ever seeing Charlo fight. Like for a lot of people, and I'm sure a lot of them were not impressed and are not going to want to watch him again, which is a shame because we know what Jermell is capable of. Undisputed champion, 154 pounds, has had some great performances. And he just decided to, I guess, play it safe. Maybe it's something he felt. But me personally, I was impressed with Canelo's performance. And last roundtable, I said, look, people are talking about Canelo having slippage and he's slowing down. And I believe he is. I think he's leaving the physical prime of his career. But he's a savvy veteran now. He's starting to enter that status now. I saw him do like really good head control on Charlo. I saw some clips where he was just like controlling his head and then hitting him with the other hand as Charlo was trying to move out of the way. And there's just a lot of little crafty things Canelo was doing in there that I just don't think Charlo was ready for. And a lot of fighters are not going to be ready for. He's starting to enter that cerebral part of his career where he's going to be winning fights with his wits and his intelligence. And he's going to fight smarter, not harder. And I think at this point, Canelo has earned that. Canelo has earned the right, kind of like B-Hop did later on in his career, to I don't need to get in a war with everybody. I'm going to fight a little smarter here. And I think that's what he's doing now. And he has, again, he's a very active fighter. And I think, again, he's going to win more fights with the cerebral side now. And I think that's what he did here. I just think Charlo didn't know. He was very gun shy, and I just think he generally didn't know what to do. So he just played it safe. Like, I think that's what happened in this fight. I don't know what's going to happen with him going forward, but I personally was impressed with Canelo's performance. And by people's own logic, they should be impressed. So let me just put out some names. Teddy Atlas, Canelo's biggest fan, right? Predicted that Canelo was going to win by a controversial decision, and Canelo was going to get his friends to pay off the judges because he really wasn't going to win, right? But they were going to announce him the winner. He was basically saying they're going to rob Charlo because Canelo was going to fix the fight. That's basically what he said, and we're transparent, all right? And he also said that Charlo was actually bigger than Canelo, and he said Canelo was slipping, right? After the fight, Canelo was too big for Charlo, right? He said nothing about the slippage. He said nothing about that, right? By his own logic, he should be impressed because you said he was slipping. You said Charlo was bigger, and you said that he was going to have to pay off the judges to beat him. Well, I didn't give Charlo one round in that fight, so he didn't need the judges. He didn't look like he's slipping, right? And now he's bigger, right? Canelo is a very good fighter. That if he wasn't as skilled and as talented as he is, would probably still be fighting at middleweight right now, right? But because he's so talented, he is a small super middleweight fighting giants at super middleweight. That is just the truth. And I know we're going to talk about it later. That's one of the reasons Crawford wants to fight him. Because Crawford knows he's not that big. Okay. And he's not the size of Benavidez. Like, he's not that big. He's not as, like, he's been fighting bigger men for a majority, like for at least the last, I would say 6 years. He's been the smaller man besides the Khan fight. I don't know what other fight. He was the bigger man, to be quite frank. But I was impressed for sure.
So speaking of Charlo, I know immediately after the fight, he said, "Hey, I'll fight Crawford." Right? He said, "I'll go back down to fight Crawford." And a lot of people are like, "I don't know. Do I want to see that now?" There was questions out there because before this fight, he was kind of very dismissive of Crawford. But now I guess there's really nowhere else to go if he wants to have a big money fight. Is that something you'd still be interested in, Mario, after this? Because a lot of people are they're down on the matchup right now.
Yeah, I get it. I do. Somebody said on Twitter, Mel lost so bad that nobody wants to see him or Maul in any more big fights. And I kind of feel like that's the, takeaway from everything. And I want to be fair because ultimately Mel hasn't done anything to ruin his legacy at 154, right? He's still undefeated, undisputed. I mean, technically, or actually not technically, right? They did take that belt from him, didn't they? And so I do want to see the fight. I think that ultimately, you put everything aside, Crawford deserves that fight. Like everybody's talking about whether Mel deserves that fight or not, but Crawford, I think, definitely deserves that fight. You're moving up to 154. You got to fight the best name, the biggest name you can find, and that's the name. I think the problem is that, how well does it sell now? How bad did he hurt his commercial appeal? Because look, for the rest of us that understand boxing and understand the complex nature of things that happen inside that ring and how every fight can be different, guys can fight 10 times and, we can get 10 different outcomes, right? But for the rest of the casuals in the commercial world on podcasts, they've been absolutely hammering Jermell Charlo. I mean, absolutely laying in, talking about he was a track star. I mean, there have been major podcasts that have just completely roasted him. And so I don't know at this point if Crawford is looking at Mel like, well, I don't know how good those numbers do. I'd rather fight a Canelo who, again, by the way, you get that pass if you go up there. You know what I'm saying? So it's like a kind of a you can't lose situation. And by the way, one last thing. We knew that Canelo is elite. We know that Crawford is elite. The question was Mel elite? Okay. With that answer already answered, it's kind of like, well, then there's only two other guys left to settle this whole thing about who's the best. I know it's not a fair fight in terms of weight discrepancy, but Crawford and Canelo exist as two of the best in the sport, maybe of all time.
Roberto, Mario hit the nail right on the head when he said, will people buy it? Because people, I would assume people like you and I, we're going to watch that fight if it gets made, right? I mean, we're kind of the hardcores. But Charlo was on the big stage. There were a lot of people who probably don't always watch fights. They watched this one. And because of what they saw, could they sell Charlo versus Crawford? Would that work?
It's going to be a hard sell. I agree with Mario. It's going to be a hard sell. However, we got to be on the same field as with everybody. It can't be one way or the other. Like Canelo goes up to light heavyweight and loses to Bivol, but he's still the best super middleweight with all the titles, and he's in control of everything at super middleweight. So right now we have to give Charlo that pass of saying, okay, you took a jump up, didn't work out, but at 54, you're still the undisputed champion. And for Crawford, you want to get all the belts in one shot, go after Charlo. So that your fight, if it's going to happen with Canelo down the line again, we have undisputed against undisputed, but now you have an extra, like Mario said, undisputed elite versus undisputed elite. And that could make that fight. It will be a hard sell. People may not tune in because of Charlo, but people should tune in because of Crawford, how Crawford just beat Spence, and that should make it attractive. Now, if I'm Charlo, I let the world know, yes, I lost at 68, but at 54, nobody could beat me. and it's not going to be Crawford, to make that fight a little bit more interesting. But he better go in there and be the Charlo that we've seen in the past and be overly aggressive to try to win back that.
Shout out to Slide Tendencies, the $2 super chat. He says that Nello hurt Charlo and Charlo cashed out, no heart. It's a little harsh, but I can understand. You know, people have their opinions.
And a lot of the casuals, sorry to interrupt, but a lot of the casual boxing fans that are not, you know, that are not experts like everybody here on the panel. But so if Charlo goes out, feels the power in the second round, and says, you know what, Marvin Hagler, Tommy Hearn style, let me go either do or die, goes out there, gets knocked out, then we'd be hearing on the casuals again. He was stupid. How do you go toe-to-toe with the bigger guy? He should have boxed. He should have moved. He should have got on his bike. He should have survived. So, again, the boxing fans, sometimes you can't make them happy. You're damn if you do, you're damn if you don't.
Yeah. D-Style, could Charlo just say, you know, this was a bridge too far? Can he use the old daring to be great phrase, and will it be applicable? Will the fans forgive him? Because it seems like not only just these podcasters here, I'm hearing people from the entertainment world really getting all over Charlo, man. They're not giving him any excuse. They're not giving him anything here, man. They're just raking him over the coals with impunity, man. I mean, they don't care. Can 154 still be his home, man?
Well, first, Roberto Diaz made a great point. Look, now that I think of it, I'm kind of glad Charlo got on his back foot and tried to quote unquote box, and because that's what they say is the way you beat Canelo, right? So if he would have come forward and tried to bang with Canelo would have knocked him out, there would have been people saying, "Oh, if he would have boxed, he would have beat him. He should have fought smart. Why did he fight that way?" That's what people would be saying, and they can't say that anymore. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because I think Charlo tried to fight, he tried to mimic Mayweather and Bivol. That's not his style. It's not how he fights, right? But yes, I do think. Look, boxing fans always sound unforgivable. Like they sound like they're never going to forgive somebody, but they always do, right? I'm never going to watch that guy ever again, and we tune in. Like it is what it is. We're very forgiving in the boxing world. Boxing fans are like battered wives. You know what I mean? We swear we're done, and then we come back and we watch. It is what it is, okay? Charlo, let me tell you something. Maybe it's not Crawford, but he comes back and says, you know what? I want to fight the Australian Tim Tszyu. Let's do it. Like, people immediately get excited for that fight. I'm pretty sure. And for anyone who thought maybe Tim Tszyu didn't have a shot before, now they're going to be thinking, well, Jermell's ripe for the pickings. And so it's going to be a more interesting discussion after that. So I do think fans will be forgiving, and I do think there's a path for Jermell, but he's going to have to do the things that maybe he didn't want to do. And that's fight Tim Tszyu.
You know, Chauncey, I think the problem was going in, even before this fight, a lot of people weren't going to give Charlo that much of a chance against Crawford, right? Even before this, like I said, what are they going to think now after they saw this Canelo fight?
As far as like the pay-per-view, of selling the fight, like you guys mentioned, it's going to be a hard sell. But do I want to see Mel and Crawford? Absolutely. You know, like if there's a fighter right now that rights his wrongs, it's Mel, right? He lost to Harrison, comes back, he knocks him out. He had a draw with Castano, he comes back, knocks him out. So I think that, you know, like, can you guys hear me?
There's an echo, guys. Can everybody mute themselves? All right, go ahead.
Okay, no, where was it? Okay, so yeah, I lost my train of thought, but Mel can, he's a track record of righting his wrongs. He lost to Harrison, comes back, knocks him out. He beats Castano in the rematch, and I think this is a fight that Mel can learn a lot. Man, he was already in the biggest stage with pound for pound, one of the best fighters, the face of boxing. So I think coming down to 54, he could make that weight healthy, you know, and good still. I mean, there's still great fights for him at 54, and he's still undisputed. So you could sell that, you know, like he's still a champion. Selling the fact that he beat his stablemate in Errol Spence. So of course I want to see that fight. And also, man, I want to say this, guys, that 54 looks like it's going to be a fireball division in the next 1 or 2 years. I mean, there's fighters that are coming up from 47, fighters right now that are making a name, Xander Zayas, Tim Tszyu. So there's if these guys, and 54 is a division where they're mixing it up. So there's going to be big fights for Jermell down there at 54, man. And that division, it looks like it's going to be a banger, man. So, yeah, I want to see it. I've already learned my lesson, though, in picking against Terence Crawford. But I do think that we saw kittens only against Canelo. But I think Lions only comes back, man, for the Terence Crawford bout.
Crystal, I don't even know why I'm asking you this question because you seem like you're done, but you're done with Charlo. But I'm gonna take a shot at it. What are your thoughts on this? If he goes back down and fights Crawford, does this performance take some of the luster away from that?
So here, I have to agree 100% with Mr. Roberto. Charlo is at 154, right? If we say the same for Canelo, he was at 168, not 175 with Bivol. Right? So we do have to give him a little bit of credit because he go up in weight. I understand. However, when we speak of Crawford, Charlo, this is a whole different ball game. First of all, Crawford don't want to fight no more. He say that. He say that on the Twitter. I don't know how truthful that is, right? Because some of us just say things on social media. So we have to acknowledge that. However, if he truly don't want that fight, what is next for Crawford if he don't go directly to Canelo, who Canelo say, I'm not interested in the Crawford fight. He's not in the plans at this time. So I don't know if there's anywhere else to go for Charlo. I think in the 54, that's where he remain. He need to bring the Lion back into the 54, grab the other belt from, is it Tim Tszyu, who have it, I believe, now through the email or whatever it is. I still think it's unfortunate he missed that belt, by the way, as soon as the bell ring. But I want to see him at 54. I want to see him come back, and I want him to do well, honestly. But I want to see him against someone else prior to getting into the ring with Mr. Crawford. That's just a whole different level, if I have to say so myself.
So let's switch gears here, man. Let's talk about this very interesting fight that's coming up this Saturday. Leigh Wood defends his WBA featherweight title versus Josh Warrington. This is kind of a crossroads fight. It's funny that I say crossroads fight because I think both guys have great resumes, but they've also had, hiccups along the way. And, both of them lost badly to Mauricio Lara. And, Wood was able to redeem himself. Warrington never did. So this is a very intriguing matchup, 50-50 matchup. D-Style, break this down. How do you see this one playing out, and who do you think wins?
Look, I think Leigh Wood should win this fight. I think he'll fight this fight from range. I think he's going to use the jab in his fight, and I think he has to fight from range. Warrington gets very dirty on the inside. I'm not a fan of it myself, but hey, who am I to say it's worked for him, right? He's got into this level. I just think he's a dirty fighter. I think he uses his head too much. I don't like the rabbit punching. I'm just not a fan of it. But one can argue, hey, that's how he fights. That's how he has to fight. I get it, but I don't like it. I think Leigh Wood's going to box him very similarly to in a very disciplined fight like he did against Lara in the rematch. I think he's going to use it. Like I said, he's going to just try to just very basic textbook boxing. That should be Warrington, but just stay away from the inside. Now, Warrington is going to try to get on the inside, try to work combinations, try to beat him with activity, right? I think that's what he's going to try to do here. Credit to Warrington. He actually went a full 12 with Lopez, right? And which is not easy to do, right? Bernal Lopez, and that fight was debatable. I'm actually kind of shocked that Lopez got a decision in Leeds, quite frankly. I had him winning, but it was really, really close, and he was able to keep up with him. So all the questions about Warrington's stamina, I think were answered in that fight, and I don't think Leigh Wood brings the punching power like that. Okay, that Lopez does. So it's going to be interesting. But I do see the counter hooks from Leigh Wood landing. I think it's going to hurt Warrington enough times, and I think he pulls off a victory in Sheffield. Shout out to Sheffield, and I think the atmosphere is going to be electric. Those fans over there are amazing. I mean, those fans, they're going to make this fight seem like the Super Bowl, right? Like it is, and that's why it's happening. I just hope look, if Warrington wins, it proves you wrong. Good for him. But if he loses this fight, I don't want to see Warrington get another title shot without earning it again for a while. He keeps getting title shots without having to really beat anybody to get them, right? And it's kind of annoying. I'm ready for Warrington to fight some contenders, some eliminators, if he ever gets another title shot again. I got Wood winning this fight 8-4 on the scorecards.
What do you think, Crystal? Eddie Hearn said that this fight, he doesn't think it's going the distance. He's saying it's going to be a war. But, Leigh Wood, he's a disciplined guy, just like he showed in his last fight against Lara. I mean, he did what he had to do to win. He didn't really take a lot of crazy chances, but he boxed beautifully. How do you see this one playing out? Do you think it's going to be a chess match? Do you think it's going to be a war? What do you got here?
I don't see I cannot agree with Mr. Hearns. I have to say that this fight, I feel like will go the distance. I think this will be a rather, one pity pot for another pity pot. Interesting that D-Style bring up the Warrington and the dirty fighting. There's techniques there that they get by with them, right? So I can't say that I love them either, but sometimes it happens, and sometimes it wins the fight. I wistfully, I have Wood winning this fight as long as he fight very disciplined, as you say. Warrington get him unfocused, we may see something different. But I think it go all 12 rounds, and I think Leigh Wood win a close decision.
So you're the matchmaker here, Roberto, and I just got to ask you this. Josh Warrington's coming off a loss, just fought for the title against Alberto Lopez. Do you think he belongs in this fight? In your opinion, like if this has to be like, you take your hat off to the matchmaker here, you got to take your hat off to the promoter here to put this fight together. Do you agree with D-Style? Do you think that he's lucky to get this title shot, and do you think he's in over his head against Leigh Wood?
I think I have to agree with Eddie on this one that it won't go the distance. I think we've seen the best of Warrington. I think I've seen a little bit of shots hurting him that weren't big shots. And if he takes another fight, whether it's an eliminator or you put him in a risky fight and he loses, and you won't get the big event. And this is a big event. This is a civil war. So at the end of the day, it's business for both of them. It's giving Warrington, whether he deserves it or not, another shot back to back. But I do see him. I mean, I was very surprised that like jabs were putting him off balance. And I think he might be at the end of his career. And Wood hits hard enough to keep you honest. And I say it because he knocked out Shu Khan. And I had Shu Khan. I signed Shu Khan when I was at Golden Boy. And Khan could take a punch because Jesus Rojas could punch. And Jesus Rojas could never hurt him. And although it was inactivity might have hurt him or overtraining, but Wood was able to stun him and drop him and knock him out. So I got to go with Wood by knockout. In the later rounds, 8 or 9 rounds, once he starts breaking down, I think Warrington's going to be a little bit more pressured to win because he is coming off the loss and because it's now or never for him.
What do you think, Chauncey? Would have the momentum? Is Warrington turning the corner? Because I tend to agree with a lot of what Mr. Diaz said here. What are your thoughts? You're on mute, brother.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I think that Josh Warrington is turning that corner. He's 1-4 in his last 4 fights, I believe. I think one of them was a draw. And yeah, man. And no matter what those decisions are, seems like Josh Warrington continues to get these opportunities and these chances. And I just feel that, I think this is Leigh Wood's third fight this year, if I'm not mistaken. I think that he's been busy, he's been active, and he has a little bit less mileage than Josh Warrington. So I think that in this fight, that what's going to happen is obviously Leigh Wood wants to keep him on the outside. He doesn't want him to come in there with that head and give him those headbutts or get rough in there. So I think that Leigh Wood's going to fight a disciplined fight, keep him in the outside. And just box around Josh Warrington, who I believe, he's kind of coming into the twilight of his career. He's not an old guy, but in those lower weight classes, it seems like they age a little bit faster. I think Leigh Wood should take this fight. I don't see him stopping Warrington. I think Warrington will be tough and gritty in there, try to make it a rough fight, but at the end, it'll be Leigh Wood with the UD.
What do you think, Mario? You're a betting man. What do you like here? This is a coin flip according to the odds.
Yeah, if I could get money on a decision, I would. I'll be honest. I feel like the smarter money is on the stoppage, but just to take advantage of the prop, I would. That said, I'm going with Wood in this one. I think, though, we have a really good opportunity for a great fight. D-Style broke this fight down as well as I would have. Crystal added, anything I would have added of substance, and everybody here has touched on it incredibly well. The only points I'm going to add are this. Chauncey made the point that, Warrington is more he's got more road miles on him, right? And that's the thing is, it surprised me to learn that Wood's 3 years older. It doesn't feel that way. It feels like coming into this, Wood is the seasoned guy. And I think that what we're going to see here could be a really good, what's the word when you do like a test to see how two things turn out? Last week we had Mel in a situation where he was moving up, daring to be great, right? But he knew he had options. He knew he could go back down to 154 and fight Tim Tszyu. He knew that there was a major fight there with Bud. There wasn't a lot pushing him to push himself, dare to be great, go out on your shield, whatever terms you want to use. With Warrington, as, Roberto put it, and a lot of you, this is Warrington's last chance. And should he even have this chance? As Beeb presented the question to us, that's a good question as well. After the Mauricio Lara thing happened, right? I was so mad that they brought Warrington out, and didn't do that trilogy because that last fight was a really weird situation, right? Same thing with Wood. I feel like Lara deserved that, match. So it's like two guys that should fight Mauricio Lara again. But I think that because Warrington has that pressure, that he's had these title matches and he's been in this position many times, and he himself might subconsciously understand that he might not be, deserving of this chance as well, realizes this could be one of his last chances. So unlike Mel, who had options following a loss last week, we might see Warrington put himself in a position where he does go out on his shield, where he is, if he's getting picked apart, if Leigh Wood is doing the things that I believe he can do, said as plain as D-Style said, then we could see a fight where it starts to get away from Warrington. And with Warrington's aggressive style, come forward style, we could see a really good fight. I think it could be fun as long as it lasts, but I'm going with Leigh Wood.
Yeah, I agree. I like Leigh Wood. I think it's going to be a stoppage also too. I agree with
that's smart money,
Roberto. I agree with Roberto. I mean, I've been seeing Warrington just hasn't been looking right. He just kind of I don't know. He's been in some tough fights, and when you have that aggressive style like that, you do damage to your body. People call him a dirty fighter, but he has that kind of kamikaze way of coming in. I'm not going to say, for sure that he does it on purpose. I just think he's aggressive. And he throws that that right hand, and the head goes along with it. And if you're in the way of it, so be it. I mean, that's just how Tim Bradley was the same way. Holyfield was the same way. But having that style, it does take miles off you. So I think it's going to be an interesting.
Do you think there'll be a headbutt in this fight?
Yeah.
What are the odds on a headbutt?
I'll take them.
I say it's even money. I'd put it at even money.
Even money? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's smart.
Yeah. So we've been hearing a lot about this next fight, right? David Benavidez versus Demetrius Andrade, right? It's been floated out there. Now it seems like we do have a date. I believe they're saying November 25th. So the big question I have also too is because I've heard Mauricio Suleiman kind of hint around that he's getting ready to order that WBC mandatory next year, right? Does the winner of this fight get the Canelo fight? We'll start with you, Crystal.
Let me say I wish, or I hope. This is what I want to see. Will it be what I see? I don't know. I think a perfect fight is Cinco de Mayo with Benavidez and Canelo. What more will bring in a crowd? This will make some money, some major money for whatever platform bring it in, right? I would be shocked if Andre beat Benavidez.
All right. Dave, I think we talked about this before. You're pretty comfortable in saying you think that Benavidez will take this. I think you said that. I don't want to put words in your mouth. Do you think if he does get by Andre, do you think he'll finally get that Canelo fight in May?
Oh, I sure hope so. There really is no bigger fight next Cinco de Mayo in 2024 right here in Las Vegas. There is no, and with these brand new venues like the Sphere in Las Vegas being floated around as a potential boxing venue, or even the great Allegiant Stadium, which we've seen Canelo Alvarez have no problem selling out Dallas Cowboys Stadium, right? There really is no bigger fight. I'm going to tell you from my perspective here on the ground after moving here to Las Vegas, that fight week for David Benavidez versus Caleb Plant on the ground at the casinos that Wednesday, Thursday, the atmosphere was far better than what I just saw Canelo against Jermell Charlo. So that just says something about that David Benavidez is gaining a fan base right here. There really is no better fight next Cinco de Mayo between a Mexican-American and the great Mexican face of boxing right now. I certainly hope so. And let's all remind ourselves, David Benavidez has no losses. He's the former WBC champion at super middleweight, and he only lost it on his own accord because of his weight and substance issues. He absolutely, if he beats Boo Andrade, which is not a far gone conclusion, merits this fight next May.
Chauncey, are we putting the cart before the horse here? Do you think we will get the winner of this fight to face Canelo?
Oh, man. I would say yes, but we all know boxing and how it disappoints us, and like we get twists and turns and drama in this. But as far as like, I mean, what else makes sense? You know, like business-wise, logically, like besides Canelo and the winner of Andrade Benavidez, I think that Benavidez wins this fight. I think it's going to look ugly, but I think Benavidez gets it done. And once that happens, like Canelo has, Benavidez has done what they've asked him to. He's beaten two fighter, Andrade and Plant. I mean, there's nothing else for him. I mean, who else is Benavidez going to fight at this point? What's his name? The young kid, Morrell Jr. Like, is he going to fight him? A fight that's high risk, low reward. Who's Canelo going to fight? You know, I saw on Twitter, I think that maybe Adames or something. Like, I think that it's time now to make the Benavidez Canelo fight May 5th. Let's get it done, man. Like that's the next fight that should happen. Canelo's not getting any younger. And you know, Benavidez with the win against Andrade, he to me, he's done enough to earn that shot. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, man. I don't know if it'll happen next. I hope so. But to me, I'm matchmaker. It has to happen next. And whether the WBC orders it or not, doesn't matter. I mean, just logically speaking, that's the only fight, in my opinion, that makes sense for both guys, Benavidez and Canelo. So, and guys, I have to run. I got to take my nephew to wrestling practice. Thank you so much again, Dave. What's up, man? Our Niners are 4-0. So
yes, sir.
We feel good. We feel good about that, man. So,
they're about to lose this week.
We'll see. But thank you guys. Have a great show. I'll still be checking you guys out on the playback. And everyone have a good night, man.
Peace, Chauncey.
D-Style, you think the WBC will finally pull the trigger and actually order a mandatory, because we know their history?
Well, I don't know I don't even want to answer what Mauricio's going to do, because I have no idea, right? But here's what I will say. for me, it makes all the sense in the world to make that fight in May, especially if Benavidez could beat Bubu Andrade. I think the winner of that fight should get the Canelo fight. In fact, I don't know. Is it 100% official yet, or I think it is?
They're pretty much saying it is, but I
don't think it's not on the schedule, but it's
okay. So the
tentatively
moment
scheduled.
the moment it's official, I mean, if I'm Canelo, I just tell them I'm like the Joker in that movie when he cracks that pool stick in half and gives it to each guy and locks him in the room, and whoever comes out, you're part of my crew now. Like that's what I do on Canelo. Though the winner, you go in the room, and whoever comes out gets to fight me. And I think that would make the stakes really high in that fight. And quite frankly, I know they're probably going to put it on pay-per-view, but I just wish it was on regular Showtime because more eyeballs, the better. And that way, it'll help promote a Canelo fight even more, in my opinion, right? That's what you want. Because there's an old saying, if a tree falls in the middle of the forest and nobody's around to hear it, does it make a sound? Well, if Benavidez beats this dude up on pay-per-view and it only does 60,000 buys, not many people heard the sound, right? But if you put it on regular Showtime, you're going to have at least 700,000, 1 million people or something watching it, especially when you count the replays and everything. So that's what I would do. I want to see the fight. I know the last time we had Roberto on, he actually mentioned something like that. He said, why not put Benavidez in there with the Bubu Andrade or Charlo, and then the winner could get Canelo, right? So here we are. Like, you know what I mean? Like if he fights Bubu Andrade, and especially coming out the plant win as well, it makes all the sense in the world, and it sets a good precedent moving forward for guys to know, look, if you want the Canelo fight, you got to show us something, right? You can't just wait and wait. And the other thing about it would be this. I think there's a lot of intrigue, and I think everyone kind of agrees that Canelo's going to be the favorite against anybody, 168 and down, right? But everyone also agrees that the guy that could probably give him the best fight is Benavidez. So that's why I want to see the fight. As a boxing fan, I think the event would be immense. I'll even take it a step further. I know Dana White's been going around saying, oh, I'm going to do the dates. I'm going to do it on May. If Canelo fights Benavidez, all right, Dana White will not, I repeat, Dana White will not put an event in Las Vegas. I could guarantee you that, all right? I could guarantee you anything that he will not dare compete with Saul Canelo Alvarez versus Benavidez, all right? I could almost, and that's one of the reasons I want it to happen. I want to see if he really does do it, right? So I know I did a show with Mario, and they have that new arena in Vegas. It's like surreal. They call it the Sphere, something like that. If they do the fight there, I mean, that would be amazing. I want this fight. It gives me it's like a mix. It gives me like Chavez De La Hoya vibes, but it also gives me like De La Hoya Vargas vibes, right? Where it gives me vibes of both fights. And that's why I want to see it, and that's what I got.
So let's map this out, Roberto. David Benavidez beat Caleb Plant earlier this year. Goes ahead and beats Andrade in November. Can anyone say that, hey, you still need to earn this fight? You don't deserve this fight. Should he get this fight if he
absolutely, absolutely. I've been saying it for a while now, and D-Style hit it. It's everybody was raising their hand. You had 6 different guys raising their hand. I want to fight Canelo. I want to fight. They didn't want to fight Canelo because they wanted to try to beat Canelo. They wanted to fight Canelo because of the sweepstakes, like he says, the payday. But who should get the payday? If you beat that other guy and do a playoff, and that winner is deserving of that. Now, when he beat Caleb Plant, props to him. But Caleb Plant had already lost to Canelo. So you beat a guy that I already beat. However, nobody wants to fight Andre because of his style. It's a very difficult style. Benavidez stepping up to fight this style is not the best style for him to fight. Benavidez likes to benefits more of fighting a guy that comes and let's go toe-to-toe because he's in great shape. He's a big guy. He's a strong guy. And he carries the punch into the later rounds. That's what makes him dangerous. We're going to see some flaws in Benavidez. And people are going to start saying, oh, wait a minute. He's more human. Oh, wait a minute. But I do see Benavidez winning. I do see him deserving the title now, to fight Canelo. He's earned that sweepstake. And I think the WBC will order it. And here's why. Whether it was BCBA, any organization, you're not going to have a promoter blocking it now by saying, well, I have the number one guy. You can't order this one. It's all within PBC. So PBC is going to say, yeah, you can order it because that's the biggest fight on this stage at this weight. And that does belong at the stadium. Canelo has filled stadiums with lower level opponents, not to diminish them or anything, but not as big in America. You're going to have a very big crowd for Benavidez because of the fans that don't like Canelo. So you're right. It is like going to be a Vargas de la Hoya. It is going to be, because Canelo's going to bring his mountain of troops, but Benavidez will bring in his as well.
I don't know, Mario. Some people are still mentioning Terence Crawford. Can the smaller guys sneak in the back door? Can they do a back-to-back? Someone jumping up weight classes. Is it? I don't know, man. I'm still hearing that as a possibility, or some people would like that. I don't know if they could do that back-to-back. What do you think? Does the winner of this fight, is it a no-brainer?
I think it's a no-brainer, but I think you have every right to feel the way you do. I think that you just go off of what Canelo's been saying. Initially when Crawford beat Spence, Canelo was so dismissive. He's like, are you kidding, Crawford? You want me to fight that guy? And then as the weeks rolled on and, you could see Crawford made a huge impact in that Spence fight. It's really difficult to see and pinpoint fights where guys, rise up. But when you get to the level that the Crawfords are at and the Spences and the, all those guys, you can pinpoint what fight did what. And this fight with Spence absolutely sent him Bud into the stratosphere. But come on, it's as simple as what Roberto said months ago. These guys had been wanting to raise their hand to fight Canelo, but which one of them had the guts, the balls to step in the ring with each other? I think, and somebody on the chat said that Charlo's next. This fight between Benavidez and Andrade should absolutely 100% automatically disqualify Charlo from getting it, Big Charlo from getting the Canelo fight. He could have fought Andrade how many times? And I understand the first time that fight got messed up, it was on, you could put the blame on Andrade, but come on, you know what I mean? Like, they could have gotten this thing done a million different times. And look, I saw Maz live. I don't know how many of you guys saw it. I'm not here to make fun. I'm not trying to say anything, but man, I don't know what's going on. He seems drunk every time he gets on live. He just seems incapacitated. And I don't know how close he is to even having a real fight. This is a real fight. And I wanted so badly to give some breaking news on here. I have a source in San Antonio who told me that the fight was already being proposed to be in San Antonio. I had another source tell me that Houston and Dallas were both in play, but San Antonio looked like the likely spot. And since then, I haven't heard as much and I'm not getting confirmations back. So I don't know where this fight lands, but no matter what, the winner and Canelo at the Spear, that would be tremendous. Go to @InfightingHub. That's my channel. Cheap plug. Me and D-Style did live last night and we talked about it. We showed some of the videos and pictures, and absolutely the first fight that takes place at this place has to be a Canelo Benavidez fight like that magnitude. I mean, it would just be the craziest. Although Nando in the chat did mention that, the capacity is not great. It's 18,000 or it's 18,600, something like that. Obviously, Canelo and Benavidez could do more elsewhere, but man, imagine that atmosphere. And, D was saying how like they could come out and those huge monitors, like, a Mexican eagle flying by, you know what I mean? Like all these crazy things they could do. Just imagine, imagine the director who did the David Haye Klitschko walkouts, gets a chance to operate in a field like that. He'd go crazy and win an award probably.
The only problem with the Sphere right now is the workers be walking out.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't even think of that. You're right.
Yeah, I don't know a lot about the Sphere yet. Just what I've seen. It looks phenomenal, but
yeah,
It's a cashless venue. So yeah, I did hear I got a lot of buddies that work the union jobs here, and they said they're not tipping. They're just not. If you make a venue cashless, you know, it de-incentivizes people to leave cash.
Great point, Shine. Great point.
So, interesting.
So Mario, you brought up the bigger brother, Jamal, and he's been in the news a little bit for a potential fight with Jose Benavidez, and it was rumored to be on that same card as David.
I heard that.
Right? So I got to ask you, do you think that's a good comeback fight for Jamal? Do you think that's something that he needs, or do you think he could go a little bit, step up a little bit more, or do you think that's the perfect opponent right at the right time for him right now?
Okay, I hate when I make things complicated, but I'm going to make it complicated. Is it the perfect fight? Yes, it is, because you're talking about Jermall Charlo, who's been out of the ring for multiple years. Okay, it's a great fight because then it sets up, you know, some bad blood, you know, possibly gives Maul some different things that he can do, you know, maybe chase Benavidez, whatever. But what it isn't good for is for the reigning WBC champion. You get what I'm saying? Like, he's Maul, the fighter, right? The person, and he should not just jump back into a big fight after being gone so long. Look at Mel. Look what happened. Use that as a, you know, as an example. But at the same time, he exists as a champion in the sport. Is this going to be a title match? Is Jose Benavidez Jr. getting a shot at the WBC middleweight championship? Is that what we're going to do? Because from that standpoint, it is the most ridiculous fight you can make. Complicated.
And that's exactly where I was going with it, Roberto. I mean, because you're the WBC champion. Jose Benavidez has one fight under his belt at 160. He moved up just recently, right? In his last fight was against, you know, not the best opponent, with all due respect. Is it even a good fight for? It's probably a good fight for him because it's going to be a big opportunity, obviously, but in terms of competitiveness, and I don't know, will the layoff kind of even things out? What do you think here?
We don't know what we're going to get with Maul. We just don't know. We won't know if he's even going to show up until we see him in the ring. So matching wise, no disrespect to Jose, but Jose was a 140. You know, he's not a 160. They have to find the safest opponent that has somewhat of a name. And I think that's where Jose fit in. Jose is going to say, yeah, I'm not going to take, you know, say no. I'm going to take the challenge. It's going to be a good pay for him. And you're right. It sets up, just in case, the Maul against Benavidez bad blood for the future. But it's here that we got to see it to believe it. I hope it happens for Maul's sake, which would mean he's focused and back and you know, because he belongs in the division. He's a good player in that division. But first and foremost, it's you never know with him. Is he going to show up?
Yeah, that's the big question. And D-Style, Mario mentioned the live, and Charlo, I don't know if he was drinking. He said he wasn't. He said he was drinking lemonade, but he looked like he was under the influence of something, but by the way he was talking and acting. Is he even ready to come back, man? Is he pushing it, or you know, what do you think, man?
Look, I'm not going to be proud to say this. You know, there's professional boxers. We have a professional matchmaker over here. I'm a professional drinker, right? So I know I've been in my fair share of bars. Not lately, but I can tell when a dude's been drinking. Okay, like I could tell that dude was drinking. Either that or he was under the influence of something. And nobody says I'm not drinking that many times if they're not drinking. Like it's he got a little too bothered by a comment saying, "Yo, why you drunk?" And then he's like, "I'm drinking lemonade." What do you mean? The drunk? Like I don't know what that was about, but man, I hate this fight. I just can't. But Mario's right. It's like, well, what are you gonna do? Throw him in there with Canelo in his first fight back? What are you gonna do? Throw him in there with Benavidez in his first fight back? I mean, what are you gonna do, right? I feel like this fight was necessary, but it got made complicated by letting him keep the belt for so long. He should have been champion. They have like champion in recess. Like that title exists. Like they should have just used it. Like I don't understand.
They did. My understanding is they did in the interim is Adames. No?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
They did create another belt, but he's still listed as the
if
champion.
he defends on this particular fight, he shouldn't defend. It should be a comeback, see where you're at.
Sometimes they'll just make somebody an interim without changing the designation of the other guy. Like so, they'll leave him as champion, and they'll still have an interim. But in reality, to have an interim, right, someone has to be absent. So if you're absent, you should be a champion in recess. I'm sorry to interrupt
the thing is that he was absent. He should be champion in recess, right? But Mauricio Suleiman refused to call him champion in recess. Like that's what happened, right? And I saw an interview where he said, no, he's a champion, and Adames is the champion as well. Like, what? Like, he's an interim champion, but it doesn't matter. He's still a champion in the WBC's eyes. Okay, look, I understand what's going on here, but it got made complicated. All right. Look, Jermall hasn't been in the ring. It's almost going to be 900 days. All right. Like, that is amazing. Like when Floyd announced his retirement, he wasn't out that long. All right. Like I just put it like when Floyd retired, like after I think it was the Haddon fight, he came back to fight Marquez. It wasn't that big of a gap. Like it just wasn't. When Floyd left after the Berto fight and came back and fought, I guess, McGregor, he wasn't gone that long. Like I'm just saying, retirements have not been this long. Unbelievable. And then we still don't know, looking at his state, I still don't know if he's gonna fight. I'm not positive that he's gonna fight. And let me just say as a side note, if what he's saying is true, that his kids are getting bullied in school because their uncle lost to Canelo, I mean, that's kind of messed up. You know what I mean? Nobody should be getting bullied because their uncle lost a boxing match to the greatest boxer in the planet. Like that's kind of ludicrous to me. But that's just a side note. But and I hate to say this, I'm questioning if that's even true. Like I'm wondering if that's even happening. Like, is that happening, or is Jermall trying to insert himself into trying to get revenge for his brother so he can get a payday against Canelo? If that's what he's trying to do, you're gonna have to wait in line. You're gonna have to do some. You have some heavy lifting to do. Starting with Benavidez, Jose, I guess, was not even a middleweight. You're gonna have to start with that, and then you're gonna have to really maybe fight Adames, and you still have more work to do after that, quite frankly.
What about him and Munguia?
Him and Munguia is a good fight as well. Yes,
I like that fight.
You know what I mean? So he's gonna have to do some work in order to maybe get a Canelo fight, and that's if Canelo's still around. Then I don't know how long Canelo's gonna be around. So that is that. I'm just not excited for this fight. I can't get up for it. But like Mario said, I understand why it's like it's one of those necessary fights. I just don't like it, you know. But it is at least he's coming back. At least he's gonna fight. I'll say that. It's better than not fighting. Mm-hmm. Okay, at least he's coming back. See what he's got, and we'll go from there.
Dave, I guess the part that I'm struggling with is, and again, I like Jose Benavidez. He's a solid guy, man. Solid fighter, good career. But he had one fight at middleweight, and if this fight is for the title, it's gonna kind of be like crazy. I don't even think he's ranked. I checked the ranking. He's not ranked in the top 15. So like, what are they gonna do here? Are they gonna make this a non-title fight? I don't know. I think if Jamal was either stripped, or this is just a regular fight without the title being on the line, and then I could kind of accept it a little bit better. What are your thoughts?
My thought, let's not forget, according to Hollywood, Jose Benavidez was the former heavyweight champion of the world. I saw that movie Creed, man. He carried up to heavyweight quite well. I think we're missing the bigger picture, man. Charlo had a trash performance against Montiel, and that was what, years back now at this point? This is a very appropriate fight for him too. And I think this is good matchmaking with that long layoff, the ring rust. You bring in a guy who literally has gone Hollywood already. Okay. You could use that to your advantage. In fact, I'm going to go a step farther than everyone's saying. We don't want to see it on pay-per-view. We'd like to see it on regular Showtime. But what happened to PBC working with CBS? Because this is a fight that if you advertise it as the winner of this main event is going to fight Canelo Alvarez on Cinco de Mayo, I think this would fit really nicely on a Saturday, late afternoon, after a big college football game, to fucking broadcast it on national television. Let's go that route. Let's say the guy that wins tonight fights Canelo. I think you'll do quite well. Far more than 1 million people watching it on cable television. What happened to that? I think boxing has just given up on the idea that advertisers can work behind it, that you can sell storylines. This is the guy for even the co-main. You got the guy who starred in Creed. Okay, a lot of people saw that movie that don't watch boxing every week like us. You could sell this as something, you know? I think it's an appropriate fight for Jermall Charlo. I don't have an issue with that WBC belt. The entire middleweight division is trash at this point. And I want to say something about Terence Crawford because you guys brought him up. This potential idea, as you know, the idea that he can move up those 3 weight classes. I've given it a lot of thought for Canelo, and obviously my first choice is to see him fight David Benavidez or the winner, whoever wins this main event between Bubu Andrade and David Benavidez. But I can see, Terence Crawford fighting the winner of Tim Tszyu and Brian Mendoza. And then after that, immediately after that fight, trying to take someone like Janibek's title at middleweight. And then there will be no question that he's acclimated to moving up in weight. And he could potentially have won another 2 championships in another 2 divisions, making him the greatest boxer of our generation. And you can't argue that someone who's made those 2 wins in succession doesn't deserve a chance to fight Canelo Alvarez.
Crystal, repeat after me. Oh, go ahead, Roberto. Do you want to jump in? Go ahead.
I just want to say one thing that would be smart on Crawford's end if he does and it is able to fight Charlo for the undisputed where Charlo's coming down from the loss with Canelo and Crawford can stop Charlo, what Canelo couldn't do. Now Crawford says, I knocked him out and I'm the smaller guy that knocked him out. So he can now just bungee jump over and say, I'm worthy of the Canelo fight. And now people are going to be like, yes, he is, because this guy knocked him out and you couldn't. So it evens up where that division difference, but it can even it up on the fight now.
You just created a storyline, and that's why you're one of the best matchmakers in the game.
Oh, he's like matchmaking in his sleep. He's over here giving these guys. I wish that everybody should know from now on. Every time Roberto comes on, he gives a master class. So if the other matchmakers aren't watching, they're losing out.
What's the word though? Did they strip him of his WBO title? Did they strip Jermell?
I don't know if they officially did that or not. They said they were going to.
They said they were going to do it the second the bell rang. That's what they said.
Yeah, well, they actually went through with it because I think they would like a Crawford.
I'm sure, right?
With Jermell, I think they kind of maybe cooler heads prevailed and they kind of backtracked on that. We'll see. So, Crystal, repeat after me. And the new middleweight champ of the world, Jose Benavidez. Could that happen?
No, that cannot happen. I do not see that happening ever. Best wishes to them. I hope they continue with the fight. And I truly, to be fair here, there's a rather serious concern here. When Maul is potentially with mental health issues, perhaps he have medication he is on, and then you combine that with the alcohol consumption. This is a severe situation that can truly affect his future. He have children. We see them in the Instagram. And so, for the better of his family, he need to get back into a camp, I feel like. I want to see him in the camp, but he needs to surround himself with smart people to push him. No more of the yes sir business. Lad, this is what we need to do. This is what I expect from you. And give him clear instruction, perhaps harsh instruction, truly, for him to actually show up for this fight and put on a show, make a statement showing the world that he is who he say he is, this lion, right? And yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure he mental state. I don't know where he is. But if you bring in someone to the camp who is a yes sir, yes lad, whatever you want to do, please feel free. Then perhaps Jose Benavidez Jr. brings something to this fight that we'll be shocked.
Great point. Wow.
Yeah.
Well said.
Because who knows if Jose Benavidez is going to be getting the best version
Of Jermall. Yeah, that's a great point.
It's hard to envision that that's going to be the case.
Yeah.
And
especially after these lives.
I think Jermall fought once in like 3 years, and that one time he didn't look so good.
Yeah,
Like,
he didn't look good as last
he just
fight.
didn't. So,
Speaking of guys that didn't look great in the last fight, let's transition over to Joe Smith versus Gilberto Ramirez. Joe Smith suffered one of those brutal knockouts that makes you kind of think, do I want to still do this? That was a type of fight, I think, that kind of takes years off of a guy's career. That wasn't just a quick one-punch knockout. That was kind of a beating, right? And Gilberto Ramirez had suffered a one-sided loss against Bivol, but it's not the same as what Joe Smith went through. Both guys are moving up to cruiserweight. What do you think, Roberto? Who's the worst for wear here? Gilberto Ramirez that has had a long career, but I don't know, man. Joe Smith didn't look great in that last fight. I don't know what he's going to have left. What are your thoughts?
I like the fight. I like the fight, but I like it because I'm biased with, obviously supporting Zurdo. Physically, Zurdo is a big kid. Even when he was making light heavyweight, he would step in the ring and as a real big, he was already close to heavyweight or at heavyweight. So he's going to be physically the bigger guy. I think he knows he has to really, really look his best and prove everybody wrong. And Joe Smith, you're right. You know what? He has a lot of mileage on him. He's had some wars. Zurdo, with as many fights as he had, and even the one-sided loss to Bivol, he doesn't have mileage. He hasn't been beat up. So he is the fresher of the two. I wouldn't be surprised Zurdo stops him in about 7, 8, 9 rounds, just with size and being the southpaw.
Think this is going to be a competitive 1D style, or do you think Zurdo is just a better fighter here?
Well, a couple of things. Zurdo missed weight by, 12 pounds? It was like something crazy like that.
The first time it was 12, and then he got down to 5.
8.
It was only 5 after. Right? He had dropped like a big amount. Yeah, he had dropped a big amount, but he was still too heavy and too big already.
So one thing he's not going to have to worry about this time, I don't think not, is making weight, right? So like that's something he doesn't need to worry about this time. Joe Smith as well, obviously, but they were both big light heavyweights, quite frankly. But I like the fight. I think it's a good crossroads fight. These fights, they always intrigue me when it's two guys like that are coming off a loss, and then now they're going to face each other, and it's kind of like high stakes. Like they don't want to be the guy that loses twice in a row, right? So they're both kind of hungry in that sense, and no one's going to overlook the other. And I think or they shouldn't, I would think. So, like I remember Rayo and fought man, his name escapes me, but they were both coming off a loss as well. And
Colbert,
right? And that was an intriguing fight as well. Like neither guy wanted to, lose. You know what I mean? And twice in a row, and that ended up being a great fight. Him and Colbert, right? So this fight should be good. It should be a good fight while it lasts. I do things like if you give Zurdo someone who's gonna come at him, it's gonna be a good fight.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like Joe Smith's gonna be the aggressor in this fight, and I think Zurdo will be right there waiting for him. Zurdo had issues with Bivol because Bivol just wasn't going to engage like that, right? Bivol's a very crafty fighter. It is what it is. Joe Smith, I think, will have his moments, but I think ultimately the textbook of fundamentals that I just think Zurdos is just better than Joe Smith at that. Good jab, good straight left that he has. So I think those fundamental shots or shots down the pipe are going to be the big difference. I think Joe Smith can get a little too wild, and I think a textbook guy like Zurdo is going to take advantage of that. Zurdo has a very underrated jab. I think he's going to use it in this fight, and I agree with Roberto. I think Zurdo will probably stop him in this fight. I'm thinking like more like 9th or 10th round, but I think there's going to be a stoppage in this fight for sure. I like the fight, by the way.
So D-Style made some good points, Crystal, but Joe Smith may not be the more skilled guy. He may not have the versatile boxing skills that Zurdo has. But one thing he did have at light heavyweight was he could punch. He had a good right hand, and he was heavy-handed even with his jab. Can that power translate up to cruiserweight, and will that make this fight interesting in your opinion?
He power can absolutely go with him to the higher weight, right? Absolutely, this is always possible. But what about his feet? Will the feet work as well as they should? We know that he is a little bit not as fundamental as many boxers, right? We already know this is an issue. So if your feet not following your hands, will his hands really make a difference? I don't think so with Zurdo. I think Zurdo is disciplined. I know that some folks say that he is a rather boring fighter to watch. I like it. I like his style of discipline. And I don't think this will be as difficult as perhaps some people are making it out to be for Mr. Zurdo. The one thing I will have to say, though, is Mr. Smith is willing to take a risk at this point. He have a lot of heart, and that heart will carry him a little bit also in this fight. So if he loses this fight, where do Mr. Smith go? He's putting it on the line. So this will carry him a little bit. I'm not sure how far, though, especially if he stands right in front of Mr. Zurdo.
Yeah, good points. Good points. Because Zurdo is patient. He's very patient, Mario. But Joe Smith sometimes is not. Right. So you got a patient guy versus a not so patient guy, Mario. That makes the fight intriguing. Will those two factors make this fight fun to watch?
Absolutely, 100%. Listen, neither guy could be undisputed at light heavyweight, right? But what does that matter? You know, at the end of the day, this is a great fight when you think about what both of these guys are going to bring to the table. And the word desperation is probably a little too strong, but it's something there, right? And when you have a Mexican fighter as talented as Gilberto, who goes into a ring knowing he needs a win, knowing he can get the win, knowing that looking impressive is going to shoot his stock up as best you can, you're going to go in there with intent. You're going to go in there in purpose. And I do expect him to be smart. I do expect him to, stay patient. I think we're going to see aggressiveness from him in bursts, right? Joe is coming in here to kind of upset the apple cart. He's coming in here to be the hardworking man. He's on brand. He's a great story. He's a great guy. I hope one day that they make a movie about him. But ultimately, what both of these guys have the opportunity to do is get a win against a name. Obviously, the win for Joe would be a bigger name, but still, Gilberto can solidify himself as a player at the cruiserweight. Right now, the cruiserweight champions, I don't think are soft, but I think they're softer than years past, right? Chris Billam-Smith, Vita Coley, what does he have? What can he offer? Is that a belt that Gilberto can snatch if he wins, or Joe? And then Jay Apataya, I think is how you say it. He looked good. Listen, that guy, I think it could be very dangerous. That could be one of the tougher fights, but ultimately it starts Saturday. If either guy wants a chance to save some of the best version of themselves for cruiserweight and really make a lasting impression in the division, it has to start Saturday. We have to see a great fight, which I know we will. And then we have to see somebody make a statement on Saturday night. The winner has to come out better than they went in. And I don't mean just winning. I don't mean, not getting touched up. I mean going out there and solidifying the win with something that can be replayed on ESPN over and over Saturday night while everybody's at the bar seeing those replays. It needs to be a lasting impression, and I think we can get that on Saturday. I'm picking Gilberto.
What do you think, Dave? Two guys busting out at the seams, couldn't make 175 anymore. How do they do it? How do they do it cruiserweight?
Yeah, this is a classic throwback. What D South say? Crossroads fight, huh? I'm excited. I'm going to be in the house. Actually, I'm going to be there with some friends. I'm going to enjoy it personally. Here's the thing with Gilberto. I'm sorry, Zurdo Ramirez. He could not make weight at light heavyweight anymore, and his performance against Bivol was abysmal. But Smith had a great showing and almost knocked out Bivol. Did we forget that? He actually had the better performance against Bivol. The question to me is whether or not this catch weight, because it's not full cruiserweight, it's 190 pounds, which is what I believe Jake Paul fights at, is if that's going to be enough weight for Ramirez to finally get back into that shape where he's throwing and letting his hands go. Because if that's the right weight, 190 pounds for him to comfortably be able to let his muscles, let them hands go, then I think Smith is going to be in a world of trouble. But if it's not, and he really needs that extra 10 pounds, the full cruiserweight limit of 200 pounds, then I think Joe Smith is ripe to take Ramirez in a potential upset here. Either way, I expect these guys to bang and put on quite a show at the Cosmopolitan, which is a nice, intimate theater where everybody can see everything going on right in front of your face. You can even get blood splattered on your face. I like this fight a lot. I'm going to be there. And again, the key to me is whether or not this is the right weight class for Ramirez to get back into that fighting shape we saw him at, when he was the former champion at 168 pounds and Smith was a light heavyweight champion. Is this the right weight class? Because I think that Opatai, you guys just brought up Opatai and he's at the zone. I think he's an international crossover star in the making. He really is, in my opinion. I think he's got that crossover appeal that Tim Tszyu has that he's starting to get here in the States. And I think it's just a matter of time before Opatai has another breakout performance and people are going to be clamoring for somebody that's well-known here in the U.S. like Joe Smith Jr. or Ramirez to take on Opatai states right here in the States. So there is a lot at stake. And I expect the winner of this fight to be somebody in the conversation to potentially fight Opatai, the big star in the making over at the Zone.
Yep. So Ryan Garcia has announced that he's coming back December 2nd, and he's fighting Oscar Duarte Jurado, I believe. I don't know too much about him. Coming up from lightweight. But we're also hearing that, this is kind of like his comeback fight, and the big fight that they're preparing him for is a potential fight in the beginning of next year against the first quarter next year against Teofimo Lopez. So will he get another tune-up in, another stay busy fight, or do you think he'll go for a title at 140? What would you do with him, D-Style, if it was up to you?
You're on mute, D.
All right, my bad. Look, I actually like the Oscar Duarte fight. He's got a good knockout ratio. This is a, keep in mind, Ryan's coming off a loss, so you want to bring him back. It has to be someone that's good, but maybe not somebody elite yet. To get his confidence back and to get him back in the winning column, and then you can set up a big fight for him. So I personally, I like the fight personally. And this is a big opportunity for Oscar Duarte. Like for him, this is a big moment, and he's somewhat of a knockout streak right now. None of these guys that he's knocked out is at the level of Ryan Garcia, right? But at some point, he's going to have an opportunity to seize the moment, I guess, right? So that, and here's the best part: it's not on pay-per-view, right? So they're not making us pay extra for it. So I personally don't have an issue with the fight. Another criticism I've been hearing, and it's a little valid, it's another lightweight that's moving up to fight him Ryan's been at 140. He hasn't fought any 140 pounders yet. So like all the guys who fought at 140 so far have been 135 pounders. That could be circumstantial, right? But nonetheless, I like the fight. After that, look, we saw Oscar De La Hoya take pictures with Bob Arum. That's always a good sign, right? Maybe if I think their love for money might make them work together, and I think if we could get like a Teofimo Lopez against a Ryan Garcia next year, that's a massive fight, a fight I would like to see. So I think that's what we're looking at, or maybe a Raleigh Romero fight, maybe next year. But that's basically what we're looking at. But those are my thoughts. You're on mute, brother.
Someone muted me. I don't know what happened there. Zerto stops Smith. Wood decisions Warrington. Usyk versus Greedy Belly. Fury is close fight. Canelo versus Benavidez May 5th. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yep.
I agree with that. Here's the problem I have, Roberto. Even with the Tank fight, obviously blockbuster event. Can't pass that up. But he had the Luke Campbell fight. But outside of that, did Ryan have the right fights to prepare him for a Tank? And, are they maybe going to do the same thing and build him up, but not really get him the right fights to get him ready for the champions at 140, or at least Teofimo Lopez, who's probably the best guy there. So should they put him in with Teo next year, or should they kind of build them up gradually to get to that point? I mean, it's one thing getting the big money fight, having the big event, but what about the future? What are your thoughts on the way they move?
Great question. Let me say that I do like the Duarte fight. It is a dangerous fight. And here's why. Ryan's coming off a loss to a puncher. The last thing you want to do is fight a puncher. He should have fought a guy with 5 knockouts, which would people might give him the pass because he's coming off a loss. Duarte comes into the situation with nothing to lose and the whole world to gain. He could become an idol in Mexico. He could become the face in Mexico right now, outside of Canelo, of course, and just boom. I signed Duarte many years ago. He has that it factor. He can punch, he can take a punch, he'll walk in through the fire willing to take a punch. The weight, he is a 135, that's true, but he's a big 135. The kid, unlike a lot of the Mexican fighters that you'll see that never get really marked up, the kid has muscles in his back, which has nothing to do with the boxing, but he's a very big, strong upper body. So I think the weight is actually going to help his body feel better. He's going to feel stronger. He's going to feel good to not have to cut down. As far as the matching, yes, Ryan should have had a couple other fights to prepare him for a Tank. But Ryan wanted that fight. And now Monday Night Quarterback says he was right because he killed it at the box office. So you can't knock that part. But I remember mentioning it. Let's do a Ryan against a JoJo because that'll prepare him for that fight. Because JoJo has the dog. He's a southpaw, about the same height as Tank. And Ryan hadn't fought someone like Tank, like the dog. And obviously, he's going to learn from that. Duarte is not similar to Tank, obviously, but he is very physically strong. Now, once you lose by knockout, what happens when Ryan gets hit that hard, solid shot again, whether it's to the body, whether it's to the chin? How is he going to, going through camp, everything's fine. Mentally, I'm back, I'm this, I'm that. But it's once you walk out of that dressing room into that ring again, and that bell rings, that now you're pushed in there, that's when the mind starts playing tricks on you. So would have been good to see maybe something, like I said, a guy with 5 knockouts. And now going to the second part is on the Rolly or on the Teofimo and Ryan, I'm an outsider now looking in. Why would they rush into that? Both sides. Maybe Teofimo and Top Rank are not seeing eye to eye. There's issues there. Maybe Ryan and Golden Boy aren't seeing eye to eye. Hey, Bob. Hey, Oscar. Let's throw them in and make the fight before both sides lose their fighters. So I don't know. I'm looking at outside looking in. Now's the time to make it. And if you make it early next year, should Ryan get past Duarte, it still is a very big fight.
So this is the right fight because you wouldn't have signed Duarte if it wasn't.
I always wanted to fight for Duarte when I was there because it was like this could make you the star in Mexico. And for Ryan's part, those are the type of fighters he has to beat, not the guys that are just coming in and like a C level. I'm going to say Duarte is a B level who can become an A level with a win, but he's a solid opponent who's not coming to fold, who's not coming for a payday, and who's not going to get dropped with one punch.
And if he brings it, then this is a win-win for him if he brings it.
Absolutely.
Basically.
Absolutely.
I see where you're going with that. Good move. All right, Crystal, what do you think? Ryan, is he in there tough? Could this be a banana peel for him? What do you think?
Look, there's a lot of factors here. First of all, if there's an upset in the near future, this is the one. If you haven't seen too much of the Mr. Oscar, watch it. There's plenty out there on the YouTube. The lad is very talented, okay? And Mr. Roberto hit it. He have nothing to lose, right? Ryan have a lot of factors. You know, how was he looking the other night in the audience? We have a Derek James now. Is he coach, trainer, whatever you want to say? And two of his stablemates lose to the top guys in the division, right? So what is Ryan thinking right now? Mr. Joe Goosen tell us when he was training Ryan, he don't listen. It would be very, very important what happens in that corner with Ryan during this fight. I think this is essential to win this fight for him. And then moving on to the future, bring on Tio, that's fine if he get past Oscar. But as one person said one time, please focus on this fight. You need to get past this fight.
I don't know, Dave. This is the stage is set here. Ryan Garcia got a new trainer. He's kind of trying to find himself again, right? Coming off of a big knockout loss, maybe the confidence maybe shaking a bit. Going in there with another guy, decent sized lightweight, about the same size as him, really, if you think about it. Even though he's moving up, he's going to argue he's probably maybe even thicker than him. If you really look at the body structure, right? This could be problems. What do you think?
My first initial response when I heard this news this week was, wow, upset in the making. Do they really want Ryan to fight Duarte? Because I've been paying close attention, and credit to Roberto Diaz for signing this kid. He really has all the tools to be a star in not only in the lightweight division, but now I guess he's going to make a crack at 140 pounds against Ryan. But remember, Ryan fought at 136 against Tank Davis, and I think that's exactly what Duarte weighed in his last fight. They agreed upon 136, where they allowed him to come in at 136. These guys are virtually the same size, right? Or at least it's not going to be an issue. It's not like he's coming up in weight. As Ryan has he even really fought anybody at 140 pounds? That's a real 140 pounder, right? This fight is ripe for an upset. Duarte not only is an excellent puncher, but I think he's got enough skills to nullify whatever Ryan Garcia is going to bring. His patented left hook that Gervonta Tank Davis easily timed, I think Duarte's got the potential to time that just as well. And if he's got the chin I suspect he has, he's going to give Ryan Garcia hell in there. This could potentially be 2 losses in a row for Ryan Garcia. It really could be. And I don't know where Ryan Garcia goes if he does end up with 2 losses in a row. Hollywood, broadcast career, he's going to have a lot of options if that happens. But for Oscar Duarte, all the upside and all the potential, like Roberto Diaz just said, to be the next or the second biggest Mexican star.
Yeah. Mario, what do you think? Duarte's been on a couple of shows on the Zone.
Mm-hmm.
Fantasy Springs Casino. What do you think, man?
Yeah, listen, I think somebody in the chat said, well, I think it was Nando or Reese, Duarte's no cupcake. Oh, it was Ricky Ricardo. And that's the subplot of this. Like, he's not a soft opponent. He can crack. Okay. Steve Kim wrote a really great tweet this week when the Ryan Garcia Duarte fight was announced. And he said essentially something around the lines of like, if first of all, he acknowledged that Duarte is a solid opponent for Ryan on the comeback trail. The second thing he acknowledged was that if Ryan is going to make a real run at 140, and if his goal is to, increase his abilities to give him a shot against the elites, or of the divisions like Tank and T.O. and guys like that, he has to fight 3-4 times within a calendar year, really get to work, really grind it out, and fight solid competition. This is a good start. This is a very good start. And whether it's a banana peel or not, that's the point of this, right? No more soft touches. You can't. Ryan's got to test himself every time. Iron sharpens iron, or whatever the saying is, and that's what we're seeing with Ryan. Now, I've heard two things, okay? And I'm not trying to go all source here or anything like that, but truthfully told, I do have a source close to the TO camp, and what I've heard is he is adamant with Top Rank to the point of, threatening to retire again, that he wants a big fight. The way that he feels is that he has had to fight, guys like Loma. He's had, one of the toughest records or resumes when compared to other guys like Tank. Okay. And so what he is saying, or what he's telling the brass at Top Rank, is that, look, I've had these tough fights. I want to make some money now. I want a big fight. I want a fight that's going to generate something significant. And he knows that that's the Ryan fight. I think that, truthfully told, for Tank to have gotten the Ryan fight, T.O. absolutely deserves the Ryan fight. He's done more at this point in the lightweight division and in the junior welterweight division. Now, I hate saying it like this, but it's almost like if Ryan's giving T.O. the shot, which is not how it should be looked at, because T.O. is the lineal champion. Does Ryan Garcia deserve to beat Oscar Duarte and then go straight into a shot for the lineal title? I don't know, but this is the boxing business. So the business of boxing allows him to do that. I don't think Ryan wants to, muck up any more shots. I think that he has to stay dedicated. I don't think the problem is Ryan. I don't think he's afraid of hard work. I don't think he's afraid of, testing himself to be the best. I think the problem is the people around him. He's got so many people in his ear drawing him one way or the other. And truthfully speaking, the people at Golden Boy had a really good, we're putting him on a great track. Roberto, y'all did a great job up until this point, and you brought him as far as you can. Now he has to allow himself and trust people that he knows he can trust to move forward. And at this point, being dragged into too many different places, trying to get out of your contract, now you're back with Golden Boy and things seem, to be going back on track. Like, what is going on? We don't know. A lot of people think that De La Hoya is trying to cash him out with the T.O. fight. I don't know if that's the case, and I don't think so. What I think is that Ryan is as adamant as T.O. that he wants the best fighters. And so I think that's what we're getting. We're getting two guys who want big fights, and they have the names to get it done.
It's so funny that you said that, Mario, because D-Style and I were talking about Teofimo Lopez this afternoon, and we were just saying what this guy's done. And because he hasn't gotten those opportunities like Tank and like Ryan, and you look at the accomplishments, right? And he just has never had that breakout fight. And life's not fair, and sure as hell boxing's not fair. Like the guys, the guys who take the toughest fights don't always get rewarded for it. And he's
said.
Prime example of that. So it's so ironic that you said that, because we were saying the same thing this afternoon about how this guy really deserves a breakthrough fight. And,
for sure.
Well, Teofimo is must-watch TV fighter. He's got the highest ratings on ESPN as a fighter, but we can't blame him for wanting to have that pay-per-view money that Tank Davis commands.
I agree.
He deserves a fight with Tank Davis just as much as anybody. And the fact that he's chasing the dance partner of Gervonta Tank Davis in this year's biggest pay-per-view. Well, I wish they could get Teofimo a fight against Tank Davis, not Ryan. There's no question in my mind where that fight ends up. How about a fight against Tank Davis, the must-watch TV fighter against the big pay-per-view fighter?
Yeah, I just want to say one thing really quick. For those that don't remember, because Dave made a great point. 4 million viewers with ESPN and ESPN Plus watched Teofimo Lopez against Lomachenko. Okay, just to put in perspective, Teo and Tater did about just short under a million, right? Those are amazing numbers, and don't think it's because there was a college game before that. Boxing was on for 3 hours on ESPN. 3 hours. Berlanga was on that card. Other fights were on that card. And those did about a minute. They were doing good views, but then it spiked up. It went up when that main event was going to start. Whatever they did to promote that fight, they did a phenomenal job. And maybe it was COVID, maybe because ESPN was able to put all the focus on boxing and than they do today. But that shows you when something's promoted properly, they could sell it. And I honestly believe that if that fight was pay-per-view, it would have done at least 400, 500,000 buys. I honestly believe that.
That's fair.
Given what it did, that is astonishing.
That's
Boxing
fair.
cannot even touch those numbers right now. So there is some potential there with Teofimo. And I agree with Mario. Like, and we talked about this, and Biba already mentioned it, but it's crazy to say it would be Ryan giving Teofimo the opportunity, but
yeah,
that's the way it is. I mean, but
the way it feels.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But like Teo has the credibility that Ryan's going for, that he wants, and Ryan has the popularity that Teo wants. So it's a perfect match. Like, you're both hooking each other up, so you might as well do the fight.
You know, you could say that Devin Haney is undisputed at lightweight, but Teo was really the lineal guy, and he did it. I thought Haney beat Lomachenko, but it was controversy. There was no controversy with Teo, and when Teo beat Josh Taylor, there was no controversy there. So you could argue he's the clear-cut man in lightweight and 140. So at some point, this guy's got to get rewarded. You know, so hopefully that happens. All right, guys, that'll do it. I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. Thank everyone on the panel. Thank everyone in the chat. Thank everyone listening in. And it was a great one, and we'll see you all soon, man. Until next time.
Take care. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Be safe.
Be safe.